I'm going to get started so we have time at the end if there's any questions or anything. So I'm Cynthia Mijares. I work at Stanford Web Services. I recently moved to the Stanford Redwood City campus, so it's great to be back here on the main campus. I'm just missing, all the trees and the people. So I'm very happy to be back. But today we're really going to be talking about writing your content, good formatting for accessibility, structuring your content, links, and tables, things like that. We'll also dive into a little bit of I'm going to use Drupal here, but it's kind of like Microsoft Word. So a little bit of what we call like the WYSIWYG or the content editor and some of the things that you can use there so that so we have the right tools that you can use to format your websites. I just remembered that this is being recorded, so it might be recording half of my face. I'm not really sure where the camera's coming from. Maybe there. So we'll see. I'm not sure what it's going to look like in the end. So we'll talk a little bit about structuring our content. I'm not really going to be going heavy into advanced HTML stuff or coding. I'm not really going to be talking about images and things like that. So kind of basic stuff. So I kind of always like to get a survey of the room, and we found out that we've got maybe a third or so from not Stanford, and everyone else is from Stanford, so welcome. Do we have people who are content editors, and that's primarily their main job, is to be adding content to the website? Yes, I see a few nods of heads, awesome. So let's see. Anybody who's a web professional, maybe they know HTML or yes? Awesome, all right. So it's great to know HTML, of course, for troubleshooting and debugging things, but it's not necessarily the case anymore with our platforms that we use nowadays, because I always refer to it as like a Microsoft Word kind of thing. Do we have any newbies who are just brand new to maybe using a content platform? Oh, awesome, content management systems, or even Drupal, or are you using Drupal? Or do you know what you're using? Drupal, okay. Not that it really matters here. Cool, and I always like to ask if there's like people who do like social media or all that kind of stuff. Posters, advertising, yay, cool. All right, so you're very familiar with some of the concepts I'll be going over today. So let's see, our guiding principles. I love this because it always gives me, there's basically three things that you just got to remember. So we're going to talk about structure, structuring the content. We won't necessarily talk about site navigation and structure that way, but more of your page content structure, okay? Brevity. So actually, let me step back. Why do we care about structure? I have some notes here, but when we talk about structure, we want to make sure that our content and website in general is findable by the Googles. It really helps with accessibility and screen readers. So setting up your page structure helps in scannability, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into that as we go on. Okay. Brevity. Just exactly that, keeping things short. And we all know that everything is sort of like this microwave mentality today, so we want things instant and fast. When we get to a website, we're not really going to scan a ton of words to try and find our answers. We just want things right in front of our face. So whether it's a heading or something bold or an image, we want things short and sweet. And I've got this study that was done here. It says that 55% of visitors spend fewer than 15 seconds per page. So they spend a little bit more if it's an article like a blog post or a news article, but people are so fast. If they don't see it right away on their page, they're going to go somewhere else, especially if you're looking for something, if you're Googling, trying to find out information. So brevity. And then our audience. Isn't he cute? I wasn't sure if it's a he or she, but so cute anyways. So yeah, keep in mind our audience. We want to have our content match the people who we're serving. If it's someone in the K to 12 range, if we want to have a different tone and different language that we use, nothing too complicated, versus someone who might be a technical writer and they might need that information and that detail, okay? All right, so let's talk about structure. Types of content. So if you're using a content management system, a lot of that is already kind of defined for you. We've got various different content types, and I have recipes up here as an example. So if you're familiar with different content types on a site, there might be a news content type with various different fields, or an event content type that you've got fields that are specific for events. So that's contents. Okay, links and navigation. So I've got a few things here. We've got navigation items, and I have some examples of what's like maybe a weaker example versus a stronger example. And if you're thinking about your own content, then you know, might want to think about some of the languages that you're using. So for example, if you have a link in your menu that just says explore, it's kind of vague. So we want something a little bit more specific, like explore publications. NSO, vols. So I'm not sure what that means. Maybe it's very, maybe everyone in your department knows what it means, but I, as a visitor or an anonymous user, I don't know what that means. So spelling it out for sure, like orientation volunteers. Community and connect, those are two different things. So we like to, I actually said a stronger version would be just community by itself, and then connect might be another block or a page on your, or another navigation item. Offices that support you. Yeah. I put additional postdoc support. Then here's some other ones that are really vague, like the most popular links, or people like to have, you know, popular, maybe popular resources, and even that's kind of vague, just, or links in general, other, miscellaneous. Those are all just kind of random and vague, and it doesn't really help the user navigate to where they're trying to get to. It kind of, we talk about like cognitive overload. So if you're just quickly scanning and you see about and you see other, like, I don't know what that is. So then you're making your user have to think a little bit harder on where do they want to go.
Oh, quick question.
Yes.
How do you feel about, this is very common, something that says, a link that says read more at the bottom of the paragraph. It's within the context, so you kind of know what it means, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually talk about that on my next one, because when we talk about, no, this is perfect, because, and by the way, feel free if anyone has any questions as we go along. It's kind of casual setting here. So exactly, read more. So those are what we call call to action kind of links. And I have it on my weaker side only because if you're looking at a page, and you'll find this pretty common where you have, say, a bunch of news articles, and you see a little blurb and read more, a little blurb, read more, and you have a whole page of read mores. It's your eye doesn't know where to go. Also for screen readers, if you're you know, worried about accessibility and all of that, as we all should be, then a screen reader would jump from links to links, and it just says read more, read more, read more, and it doesn't know what they're going to actually read. So in this case, on my stronger side, it says read more about the author, or read more about something, this news article or whatever it is. It can get a bit long, but that's okay. You know, you want the user to know exactly what they're going to get when they click on this link. So some other examples here, like our mission. It's okay as a maybe main menu navigation, but as a call to action, you want it to be specific. Again, you want the user to know what they're actually going to get when they click on this link. Just more, like see more events. You know, you'll find that as you go down, you'll see a common thread that it's pretty specific as to what they're getting. I've seen this now, and I've even used this. Apply now. You know, if you have a page, maybe it's an admission page, and you say apply now and a big button. Versus download PhD application. And, you know, maybe if there's only one thing that you're applying for, that maybe that's okay. But you know, there's options. We've got the orientation volunteer application, you know, which could be a header, but as a link itself, maybe you want to just say apply to be an orientation volunteer. I should have brought a tissue or something. And I'm going to be recorded. Yay! I don't have anything. Okay, because there's a fan blowing me. I'm gonna just drink something. All the UX people are coming to the rescue. Okay, where was I? Oh, the full list of our programs. Yes. So again, maybe it's some of these are more like heading text where you have a little bit of blurb and then you want to have the actual link that's a little bit more specific. Find out the right Find the program that's right for you. I'm going to move my thing down below. Okay. Oh, thank you. I will have it just in case. Thank you. Alrighty. And then here, click here. Those are things that I see on Stanford pages right now. They're out there and you'll see them a lot. Just you'll see even in paragraph content, click here. And it doesn't mean anything because as an anonymous visitor to your site, most likely I'm going to be scanning your page and I see there's a link and it says click here. And then I have to go back and figure out what does that mean? What am I clicking on? You know, so definitely something that's a little bit more descriptive. If it's a PDF document, instead of just have the title of the PDF document instead of click here. You know, that is a ton better already. Any questions there so far? No? Okay, cool. Okay, so let's talk about titles and headings. Okay. Here, titles and headings. Always a great example is, you know, keeping it short, skipping the unneeded words. Maybe you don't want an entire sentence as your heading, but not too short. Like I said, make sure you have those keywords. And just so you know, our slides will, this session is being recorded, so it will be available afterwards, and also a link to the slides if you want to download them after. Okay? Keep it simple, avoiding jargony words, and jargony meaning, like we went back, we were talking about the NSO vols, which actually stands for volunteers or orientation volunteers. We want to avoid jargon that's specific to your department and something, even FAQ. Sometimes FAQ seems to be pretty common in America, like everyone just knows what an FAQ is. But if you go to other countries, not necessarily. They might not know what FAQ means. So. And that might not even be considered jargon, but sometimes it is. So spell it out, frequently asked questions. So here we have some examples. About, and I still use about, so obvious it's not that great. Actually, it's about as a main menu navigation, not necessarily a title of the page. So if I click on the about link in the main menu, I want to go to a page that says about our galleries or about the Department of English or something. Okay. Same thing, directions to the Haas Center. What can I learn? That's actually a whole entire sentence, and it might not be appropriate for your page title. It could be a heading or something below, but yeah, career options as your page title. Actually, these are also, it says for headings. Learn about how to declare. Just keep it simple, how to declare. Here's another jargony one, UAR. I have to read, what is UAR? Undergraduate Advisor Appointments. Okay, and then same thing with BOSP, Study Abroad Opportunities. Okay. Alrighty. Here's a fun one. Title case or sentence case. And I actually read an article about this because which one of these sentences is easier to read? And I just do a survey. How many think the first one's easier to read? Anyone? No one. Or the second one? Yeah? Okay, great. It's true. It's easier to read the second one because that's what our eye is used to. But sometimes people like to use capital letters everywhere, you know. Yeah. So there isn't necessarily a right or wrong, and people do use the first one. It depends, but if you're using, I prefer the second option. I have some examples here. Oops. Oh, there it is. Okay. So these were just screenshots that I took from the GSV website. And you can see over on that side, left, whatever, that side, is some examples where they use title case for their events. So if you click on it, the entire thing is all caps. Is it easy to read? I don't know. Does it make sense? Maybe. Versus the one that's sentence case where you actually have a full sentence, easier to read. It's longer for sure. And, you know, you click on it. So there isn't necessarily a right or wrong. But if it's, I guess, if there's a number of words, using a sentence case, you know, makes more sense. But obviously, people are still using title case. As you can see, go to a GSV website today. It's on their homepage. Okay. So let's talk about paragraphs. TLDR. Does anyone know what that means? Yeah. What does it mean?
Well, I don't remember exactly what the letter stands for.
Yeah.
I used to know, but
yeah.
It means kind of a short and sweet summary of what it is your content is that you can consume in like 2 seconds.
That would be nice. TLDR is like, it stands for too long, didn't read. So yeah, that happens a lot. You know, people have a lot to say. Want to be very verbose. And I'll just read this to you. It says, most of the time, an acceptable print paragraph is too long for the webs. So in books, in newspapers, paragraphs can be pretty long. It's a retinal thing. So we stare at a well-designed book for hours without eye fatigue, and staring at a monitor is different. The eye needs to move to fight that fatigue. So we break longer paragraphs into shorter ones. It's the same content, just spaced differently. Even writers who are not designers must be mindful of this. So I'm working with, you know, the president and provost office, and you can get letters and things that are pretty lengthy and pretty wordy, and it's important content and it's been approved, you know. But even just breaking up the same content but into shorter little chunks is going to save your eyes a lot of stress and strain. So.
Quick question.
Yes.
About that. On some websites, I've actually seen at the very top of the website an estimate of how long it will take you to read the page. Do you advocate that, or what do you think about that?
That's interesting. I have not seen that on any Stanford properties.
Oh, no, it's not Stanford. It's very
yeah, do you know about that?
Yeah, that's normally done like where I've seen it the most is Medium. What they're trying to do is give you an idea of how long it's going to take to get through this article, which is more of a little bit of a longer form.
Oh, I see.
For most of the websites that we do at Stanford, it's more about getting users to complete tasks, and that task might be finding information or finding
Mm-hmm.
So generally speaking, we don't use much of that, but it might be something to do for some of our more storytelling type projects.
Maybe magazine or
Magazines
blogs.
or the School of Engineering's digital magazine, or digital magazine, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just insights.
Yeah. So you can know how much time to reserve to really dive into an article. That's a good idea. Okay. Oh, any questions on that one, on paragraph spacing? And no? Okay. So now let's talk about bulleted and numbered lists. Great. So I have some examples here, the weaker being at the top and the strong being at the bottom. So it's the same content. It's talking about Hawaii's attractions. And you could take that same paragraph and read through it, and it's still the same, it still makes the same sense, but visually, and as you're scanning a page, it's so much easier to look at bullet points, you know, and then rewording the last part that tourists and surfers and etc. alike enjoy Hawaii. There's probably some other things that you do. If you have a list of, you know, 2, 3 things, comma, 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 make it a bulleted list for sure. And I would say for bulleted lists, like, I don't know how many is here, 5. I like 5 to 7. If you have more than that, 10 items, you might want to break it up into smaller bulleted lists, because otherwise it'll be a page of bulleted lists. It's just too much. Yeah, it may be a bulleted list, but 5 to 7 is a good number. Less than 10 for sure. Okay. Same thing with numbered lists. So again, it's a paragraph of information, and it's just easier to scan and easier to view, especially if you've got people trying to do steps and trying to, you want them to follow a sequence of events. If you're maybe doing an application, like step 1, step 2, you know, something short and sweet. I do this a lot with clients who are trying to do something on the website, and I say, log in, you know, click the edit page screen, go down here and add it to the menu. People don't want to read a paragraph of stuff, especially if you're trying to explain things to people how to do stuff. Okay. Let's move on. Tables. Oh gosh. Yeah, this is just something I've seen a lot of on some websites. People have a tendency to want to convert their Microsoft Word document or their PowerPoint slide and have it look exactly the same on a web page. And you know, that doesn't really serve the purpose of a web page. It doesn't serve the purpose for the user, I should say, because you don't know what size screen they're going to be looking at on, and it might not look exactly as your printed version. So this just wouldn't fly. Plus, it probably wouldn't be very responsive. It's hard to read and scan. It's just overload. Okay. So let's talk about when tables are appropriate. So here's some tips. Always use column and row headers for your table. Only display tabular data. We'll talk a little bit about what is tabular data. And if it's too big for the page, you probably need a database, and you don't want it to be represented in a table. Okay. So meaning, like, if you have a directory of folks and you want to list all however many people are in your department, maybe a long directory would be okay if that's what they want, but it might be better in print. Maybe you just need a database, and you could search for the person's name and just see an individual, or you know, maybe 2 or 3 with the same last name versus a giant long list. Okay? This is what I was referring to earlier. Never use tables to make layouts. So if it's something that's in print and you're trying to duplicate that on a website, I've gotten requests for that quite a bit, you know, to try and make it look the same. They said, I just want it to look the same. I'm like, well, the web is very different. It's not the same. Okay, yes?
Even if it is tabular data, how does it work for accessibility?
Yeah, just recently we have created responsive tables, but not, I mean, for quite a while, tables were not responsive. So, and even then, responsive is to the best, you know, that we can do, because if you're trying to scroll, if you imagine trying to scroll on your phone on a table, it's pretty hard to do, and then scroll back up to the top, and where are you? And then if you're in the middle of a table. In fact, I was doing this morning. I was looking at the Marguerite shuttle schedule, and then I didn't remember which column I was in. So I see a time, and I don't know if that's Palo Alto or, you know, like what stop it's going to. So it's hard to navigate for sure.
From an accessibility standpoint, table screen reader, for people will read tabular data in a different way. So if you're using, so if it's literally tabular data, like the this Marguerite schedule that at least is kind of working the right way. But if you're using it for a layout, then the screen reader is going to navigate that table a specific way that won't really represent what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you recommend using alt tags on tables, or can you use alt tags on tables to describe what's been shown in the table?
Alt tags never hurt, of course. I don't really use alt tags, but maybe in the meta tags you could probably put stuff. Yeah. Thanks, good question. All right, so let's look at some examples. What about this? Should this be a table? We want to ask, is it tabular data, or is it just something that they put that way just to make it look pretty? Oh. It is tabular. It is tabular data, yes. So it could be a table. It's kind of, it probably was a snapshot from like looks like a phone book or a directory type of thing. But it does have some column headers, the name of state, the effective date. So those are column headers. There's, it's definitely tabular. So it could be laid out into a table on a web page.
Is it too long? Does it break that rule that you normally go about? It's too long, probably it's a database.
It could also be a database, but you know, it's okay. Well, I don't even think all 50 states are represented here. So yeah, if it was.
It's pretty old.
Yeah.
That's old.
Yeah, I know. Look at the dates, right? 1908 or 1915. It could be a table. Yeah. Or if it was not a table, maybe you just want to see statutory and then just show those on a table and the constitutional on a separate table. You could break it up that way.
Actually, be nice to present it as graphically as a map, and then as you mouse over each state.
Yeah, or nothing. Okay, so that could be one. Here's another example. Does this warrant, would you call this a table, or would you make this into a table on your website? Yeah? Yes or no? Yay or nay? Yes? I would probably say no. Well, it could be a table because it is tabular. There's definitely a column headers, Arabic versus Roman. The problem with this is that there's 3 sections of the same content. So instead of having 2 columns, they tried to make it look pretty on a page, and they made 6 columns. So yeah, that's where the problem is. Okay, and it was probably they were trying to fit it on a page and do a layout thing and make it look different.
Oh, if I could ask a
yes.
question, why is that a problem if you have 6 columns? Because at least at the eye sees the column headings are all the same, so you kind of grasp what it is they're trying to convey. Why would you not do that?
Yeah, so I'll go back to what David was talking about for screen readers. If you're going to be jumping to Arabic, Roman, Arabic, Roman, and then I'm going to get confused because it doesn't, it's the same information, but then you're going into different columns. Yeah. Okay, here's another table. Would you make this into a table on the webpage? No. Yay! That was a resounding no. That's just a list of content. People wanted to add it, make it into columns, probably to make it look pretty on a page. On a Word, if you're printing a piece of paper, sure, you could do a layout like this, but not on the web. Certainly not in a table. Okay. All right. So now we'll dive more into the actual content. Let me see how we're doing time. Great. So summary text. Our guiding principles. So summary text is usually just 1 or 2 sentences at the beginning of your web page, and this just is basically what it is. It's a summary. It tells people what they're going to find. So here's an example. Just a couple little sentences to say what else is on this page. Okay. So here's what we call a real life example. So this is a before screenshot that I took of our Stanford Web Services blog, and you can see that, you know, there's some hierarchy, there's some spacing, there's some bullets, but it could be better. So I'll show you what I did. Can you guys see that or get a gist of, you know, what it kind of looks like? You don't have to actually read the words. So here, again, I added some headers. The top has some summary text area. It's just grouped better so that it's very scannable. Your eye doesn't have to focus in on any particular section. It just scans the headings and simple. You're going to get to what you want faster. Okay. All right. Woo! HTML power. So now we're going to just dive into my website here and go into a little bit more of the back end. I think I will, based on time, got about, this goes to 11:45? Okay. All right, I'm gonna go dive into this first since we were talking about it. I just did a copy and paste of a web page and took out all the formatting. So again, wall of text. I was like, it's too long, didn't read. So let's just go in here and see what we can do to format that. Since I'm in here, anyone not familiar with this interface? Okay, so this is a Drupal, what we call an edit screen or edit node form. And this is the body areas, kind of like Word. I kind of refer to it as Microsoft Word. So you've got what we call the WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. So you got things from bullets, and let me make this a little bigger. Better? Okay. So content, we can do things like bullets, italics, make bullets, indent or outdent your bullets. This is an action, so like a Command Z or go forward or go back. Adding URL links, okay, or unlinking. This is an image, which I don't really use. Superscripts and subscripts, quotes, adding a horizontal rule. And these are some pasting options. This I love. I always talk about this because if I'm pasting from Microsoft Word or Google Doc, just highlight all of it and just remove formatting. So it's going to kind of clean up your code for you, and it'll probably allow your content to take on the theme of your website, which you want so it's consistent across. Okay. We have some formatting options, and that goes back to our headings. Okay. And then we've also got some style options. So call out text, captions. Down here is where we're referring to our summary text. Tables, spell checkers, here's divisit, like you can add a div block if you're familiar with code. And I very rarely use this, like hardly ever, or never, I should say. It's like a teaser break, and that is more for dynamic content. All right, so let's make this a little bit better. So we've got our first couple sentences, and I will make that summary text so we can let people know kind of what they're going to get on this page. And what else? We'll probably scroll down, headings and page titles. That looks like a heading to me, so I'm going to make that a heading too. So you notice what we've got various other headings. If you're working on a web page, the rule of thumb is always to have headings be semantic, meaning your page title is always going to be heading 1, and the next heading below that will be a heading 2. And then again, if you have a heading within this section, you want that to be heading 3 and 4, 5, etc. We don't want to choose a heading just because we like the look of it. For screen readers and accessibility, when they're scanning the page, they're going to jump from the heading 1, which is your page title, to heading 2s, and they'll just jump heading 2, heading 2, heading 2. So if you're trying to make something a heading 4 because you just like how it looks, it's just not going to get there as like you think that a screen reader should. All right. So what do you think? I think this is probably a bulleted list. Right? So I'm gonna make that a bulleted list. Probably another heading. So I'm gonna make this heading 2 again. Keep it short, but not too short. Keep it simple. And this is like exactly what I was saying earlier. Read more. Maybe these are all bullets. Read more.
Would you ever create a style for those sections that you're bulleting? So every time you select a style, you can just do, I don't know if you want to call that like one year bullets, or do you just click on the bullets?
Yeah, I usually click on the bullets icon. There, you could add a style afterwards. I don't know if there's anything that's specific. Oh, here, unordered, unstyled, unordered list. That's what that did. Yeah, there, depending on what I highlight, there's various different style options that you can choose. Again, headings. I'm going to just leave the page like that so you can kind of see the difference. So we've got some structured, some not. Basic patterns. This may be a heading 3. I don't know. Keep it short. Okay. So I'm just going to save it so you can kind of see on the page the difference on scannability. So there's the top of the page, pretty scannable.
I'm wondering if in the outside world that use of red would be considered, why it's not danger, it's not bad, why are we using red?
Yeah, it could be. The reason we're using red here is because it's a standard, this website is using a Stanford theme. So within Stanford, we have different themes. And if you look at identity.stanford.edu, you're from Stanford? Yeah, okay. So if you look at identity, there's various different theme colors. You could use blue links. This site happens to be using, I think, a Stanford Light theme in general. So link colors are red. The good thing.
So that's based on the theme that you've chosen as opposed to, oh, I want something to be, pop out or be more visible. I'll make it red.
Yeah, hold on a second.
If you've chosen a different theme, you might have blue links or you might have blue
possibly, yes. Okay. Yeah. I lost my Zoom connection, so it had to reconnect. Sorry about that. Sorry, people on Zoom. Okay. Hopefully it's sharing. Huh? They missed the best part. I know. Whatever that is. Okay. I think I'm sharing now. If someone can chat.
You're still recording?
Yeah, I think I'm recording. I hope I'm recording. Okay. Does that answer your question? It's based on the website theme, typically, yeah. Okay. So that's really what I wanted to show you here, so you can kind of see it in a live for real site that headings and structure really, really makes a difference. Okay. Let me go back.
So, excuse me, are there some, or I should ask this as a question, are there some rules headings and structures to make it easy for search engines to crawl your site.
Definitely. Definitely, yes. So search engines will search headings, heading 1s, your page titles first, and then heading 2s, and then like body content. So that's another reason why you want to have great, really great titles, great headings, make things searchable. Okay. Did I skip something? All right, the process. So I was like, this is my stairwell, because it's like, you do it again. One flight of stairs, you do it again, and another flight of stairs. So write, revise, repeat. Websites I would usually refer to as a garden, because if you are a gardener and you plant annuals, you know that every year you're going to be planting, you're going to be pulling weeds, you're going to be constantly tending the garden. Same thing goes for your website. When it's live and launched, you want to be revisiting that, updating things, making sure you're doing your content. Even if it's the same content, revisit it again. Make sure people are finding what they need to find. And we'll talk a little bit about how do we do that. Okay. Don't let your content die. There's this quote. Don't let crappy content ruin your website. When you launch, it's beautiful. There's beautiful images, but a website is not a website without good content. That's really what it's all about. So things to consider, maybe an annual review, depending on what your content is. Maybe it's more frequent. Some people, when I work with clients, sometimes I say, just put it on your calendar, just as a reminder. Maybe it's a web team meeting that you do a larger group of people, or have a larger group of people that will review the sections of a site or the entire site, depending on what your content is. Okay. Process, seeking feedback. Okay, so how do we do this? Oops. Oh, okay, because I didn't have a slide in between. But I did. Some of the ways that I like, oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. Some of the ways that I like to talk about this is maybe just doing user testing. If you have some content, ask your coworker down the hall, does this make sense? If you're writing something and you have stared at it so long, you just don't know what you're looking at anymore. I do this all the time. Even in troubleshooting, I just ask, hey, Carol, can you look at this? And sometimes just having another fresh set of eyes really, really helps to get better content. It's that what we call 5-second test. Okay. Yes.
I've always wondered how effective feedback form is to the website, because I might be different. When I see a feedback form, I usually just close it immediately, because I want to, looking at something on the site, I don't want to be bothered with feedback. Giving feedback, I know that's not really the right attitude, but has anyone done any studies how effective feedback forms are, how useful they are?
I'm not sure. I don't know of any. Maybe yes, we just have some in the room that do.
I don't know specifically, but I guess negative feedback is more common than because if you're enjoying or you find what you want, you just go on and get frustrated. Push that button, I'm frustrated.
Yeah, you can't find something or something's broken. That's typically.
Because I can get frustrated by annoying feedback.
Yeah, on the other end, then that might be true. There are definitely, yeah, depending on the site that you have. I know the sexual harassment office, they have a feedback form there always, just for the nature of the content, So if it's a new site, sometimes people like to have a feedback form just because it's new, and they want their users or department to be happy. But yeah, I like the quick test, especially if you're staring at the content for quite a while and you're like, God, I need some fresh eyes. It always helps to get some peer review. Okay, I have time. Ooh, it's 11:44. Time for questions. None?
Are all classes being recorded?
Yeah, but it looked like I lost my Zoom connection for a little bit, so I'm not sure when because I just saw something spinning and it reconnected me. But they are being recorded, and the slides and recordings the slides for sure will be available at the session, on the sessions. The recordings, if they're good, will also be added. Okay. So thanks for all for coming, and